UFOs in a Strange Universe. Welcome to UFOs in a Strange Universe. I'm Ivanhoe Chaput. I'm 78 years old, and on March 31st, 2026, I'll be 79. I've been studying UFOs and the paranormal since my first UFO sighting when I was 13 years old. I hope you enjoy my experiences and personal views on the strangeness of the UFO phenomenon in the following chapters of UFOs in a Strange Universe. Creating reality. In my last post, I mentioned the probability of thoughts creating entities. These include egregores, tulpas, gnomes, spirit entities, and the possibility that some UFOs themselves could be the manifestation of thought. Of course, the other side of that coin is that these entities are part of the structure of the universe that we as yet don't fully comprehend. Understanding reality doesn't necessarily include what we, as mankind, understand what we know about it. Many aspects about reality are innocently or even arrogantly expressed in books, videos, and discussions about what now, but little to nothing is being broadcast about what we don't know about it. What I mean by this is that we don't know what we don't know. Fortunately, there are some researchers delving into the unknown realms of what reality is unfolding for humanity. There are some social media and TV physicists that make claims on the viability of reality. In other words, is reality real? Some rely on the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, claiming that quantum systems do not have physical properties. Therefore, the physical universe that's comprised of quantum particles cannot exist either, thus questioning the viability of reality. Some philosophers question a different form of reality within the brain, such as symptoms like psychosis, existential OCD, or gaslighting can also lead to a distorted sense of reality. A reality based on thinking, imagining, or using creativity to bring something about is another form of reality that exists emanating from within the mind. An example of another form of reality is something we do in the dreaming state. Think about a dream you've had, recently or long ago, that has stuck with you. In that dream state, what was dreamt was as real as you in your wakened state. Nightmares are an example of just how real these can appear. Livid dreaming is practiced by many, and is a state of reality that can be controlled just as decisions are made in the woke state. Then there are people that practice astral projection, which again, the person not only has control, but has been known to interact with other entities that have had an existence within the astral plane, or even have been or are still alive on the earth plane. Yet another example of reality stems from the imagination that can manifest itself into the physical universe. I mentioned earlier of the fascinating experiment that was conducted in the early 1970s by the Toronto Society for Psychical Research to see if they could create a ghost. An entity they named Philip was created from the thoughts of the participants. Philip could have been an egregore. To recap, an egregore is a thought form, or an imaginary sentient being created through focused meditation and visualization techniques. Tulpas originate from Tibetan mysticism. In Tibetan Buddhism, it is a spiritual entity created through intense mental discipline, while in modern internet communities, tulpamancy refers to an imaginary friend that is treated as a distinct sentient companion within one's mind. In the Toronto Society for Psychical Research, they gave the egregore his name and an identity as follows. Philip was an aristocratic Englishman, living in the middle 1600s at the time of Oliver Cromwell. He had been a supporter of the king and was a Catholic. He was married to a beautiful but cold and frigid wife, Dorothea, the daughter of a neighboring nobleman. One day, when out riding on the boundaries of his estates, Philip came across a gypsy encampment and saw there a beautiful, dark-eyed, raven-haired gypsy girl named Margot, and fell instantly in love with her. He brought her back secretly to live in the gatehouse, near the stables of Diddington Manor, his family home. For some time, he kept his love nest secret, but eventually Dorothea, realizing he was peeping someone else there, found Margot and accused her of witchcraft and stealing her husband. Philip was too scared of losing his reputation and his possessions to protest at the trial of Margot, and she was convicted of witchcraft and burned at the stake. Philip was subsequently stricken with remorse that he had not tried to defend Margot, and used to pace the battlements of Diddington in despair. Finally, one morning his body was found at the bottom of the battlements, whence he had cast himself in a fit of agony and remorse. He committed suicide. The Toronto Society for Psychical Research experiment went on for about a year before experiencing any positive result. This is when they changed from working with a Ouija board to a classical seance. The group succeeded and the sessions took off from there. Philip was answering questions with rapping on the table, once for yes and twice for no. Philip also seemed to have a personality and was able to move the table around which the group sat. Was Philip actually the creation of the group's imagination who appeared to know only things that the group was aware of? In the Spirits book, written in 1857, a different postulate is presented. Since Philip only knew answers to questions that the group was aware of, this book poses the possibility that the group had attracted a spirit entity posing as Philip. The author, Allan Kardec, is the foundational text of Spiritism, compiling 1,019 questions and answers on the soul's immortality, the nature of spirits, and moral laws. According to Kardec, the spirit entity of the Toronto Society for Psychical Research Group fits the characteristics of a lower-level spirit entity prone to deception, trickery, and playfulness. I will address this idea that some non-physical intelligences have a propensity to play tricks or outright deceive humans for reasons known only to them, in a later chapter titled, Are They Deceiving Us? The Toronto Society for Psychical Research Group performed before a live audience of 50 people, making lights blink on and off and making table rapping and other noises around the room. The experiments produced more than they ever expected, but they were never able to have Philip actually materialize. Another group was able to create another ghost named Lilith, given the background of a French-Canadian spy. Another group conjured up a medieval alchemist named Sebastian and another ghost of a man from the future named Axel, and yet another group from Sydney, Australia, created Skippy Cartman, a 14-year-old girl. These experiments proved that paranormal phenomena exist and leave us with more questions than answers. Could an experiment be conducted by conjuring up UFOs and aliens from some interdimensional realm? Is it possible that the participants from CE5 are actually creating contact rather than making contact? Or has this already been accomplished by way of our collective consciousness, and beings are somehow materialized in our three-dimensional world, without participants even being aware that they were responsible for their creation? Children that have had visitations of beings often continue to be visited throughout their lives. Sometimes these visits are generational, passing the visitors on to their children and their children's children. Could there be something genetically encoded that is either attracting the visitor's presence, or could their genetics be somehow creating them from their subconscious thought? Pointing to a single reason for any paranormal phenomenon, the enigma of UFOs or any unexplained and unexplainable phenomenon, has led me to believe that the strangeness of the universe is yet much farther beyond our understanding. A pragmatic approach providing logical reasons for people's strange occurrences may not be a viable solution to some of their experiences. Let's take, for example, UFO occupants taking people aboard their craft, where United States military personnel in uniform have been seen. Aliens describing their planet being between Earth and the Moon. Aliens providing a specific date for their return, and the date passed with no visitation. On the other hand, there have been cases where alien visitors have healed people from incurable diseases. There have also been humans reiterating, during their abductions, that they will not be harmed in any way. There are alleged alien vehicles that are solid, made from materials that can be found on Earth, but impossible to replicate in their molecular structure. Then there was a case where an alien was assisted entering his craft by a human. When the human assisted the alien, he noted that the alien should have weighed much more than expected. According to this witness, he should have weighed at least 60 to 70 pounds, but only weighed no more than 7 or 8 pounds. Are we living within a physical universe that's taught us that Newtonian physics has provided a preponderance of evidence that reality is no more than what we have thus far discovered about it? Or is the universe a cacophony of mysteries stacked one over the other, designed for us to wade, though, in search of where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going? We can only experience physical reality according to our human form, while unknown realities are still waiting to be revealed.